Have you noticed all the companies that used to only talk about AI has now started to talk about governance as well? Now that may come as a surprise to many who are just listening on the consumer side of things, but it's actually not a surprise for many who are heavily involved in these things. Now, every company who was heavily involved in enterprise softwares already knew that we need to think about governance because AI is like a wild beast. It can do a lot of great stuff, but it can only do great stuff if it is governed properly. So that is where all these companies started to form governance. And now after a few years of the AI hype, we can clearly see it in all the big events out there. Now, when we talk about governance of AI, one of the biggest piece that AI work is on data. So when you talk about data governance, and that is where the whole gameplay changes. Now everyone is talking about data governance, context engines, context governance, graphs, and things like that. So a lot of names here and there. Now one of that name or one of that thing which is coined is data catalog. So this is me, Kamal Shivakramani. I've been in the industry for over a decade and had the opportunity to work on some of the most challenging requirements shaping my career. I've been an architect, a lead developer in my past roles, which makes me even more excited to talk about new things which are coming out there. All right. So this is what we are covering today. So I'll start with a perspective from ServiceNow side, and then I'll take you to see and connect the dots with data catalog. All right. So the world we right now know from a ServiceNow domain expertise perspective. So we know about all the tables, all the domains, all the database views that are out there. And there are many, right? There are a lot of tables. We know how to navigate through the tables. We know how to deal with portal pages and where the data is stored, or if you don't know, you can easily get to that, and the ways, right? We know the transactional records such as incident, task, and change and whatnot. We already know the different domains such as the HR profiles, where the HR data sits, where's the financial data, where's the customer data on the CSM side, and whatnot. So all these different domains, think of it as the ServiceNow data. Now, if I tell you, any ServiceNow expert, hey, can you extract me the user data? Can you give me the user data for Kamal? And you'll be like, yeah, that's like a quick query. You can simply navigate to the user table and you'll be able to find that data, right? Or maybe you are the HR person, you will navigate to the HR profile and get me that data. And if you are very tricky, very pro coder, you will just write down the query for me, right? So that's very easy for you. But the real question arises when a business analyst comes up and asks, hey, can you show me all the employees that were hired in the last 6 months, but who have not completed their onboardings in ServiceNow? Now that's a tricky one, right? Because you can get all the employees' data, but you're not sure if this employee data, what you have in ServiceNow, is also containing the data of the people who are not onboarded yet. Now, there are different kinds of processes in every company. Some company starts at ServiceNow as soon as the reference has been qualified, as soon as the CV is received, the data is already created on the ServiceNow site. So there's some table, usually the HR table, holding that data down. In some other cases, it's a reference system, it's an HR system, and once the onboarding is finished, and when the person needs access and finally gets the access, then his records or her record gets created in ServiceNow. Now, in both of these cases, trying to find out this particular report, this particular data, is very problematic because you're sure you can check the onboarding status. The onboarding flow will show you what's the onboarding status. You can surely check the HR profile records and the user records, but you don't really get the hire date there, at least not in general, right? It's not out of the box. Let's just say that. On the flip side, on other systems, if the organization is using some other systems, you will definitely get the hire dates, the contract information, some nitty-gritty around the contracts, but there will not be any onboarding status, right? So the thing is, if I tell a ServiceNow admin that, hey, with the same query, he will give me only the onboarding task status, he will not give me the hire date. And then I have to separately ask the people on the HR side working on the HR systems, hey, can you get me that? And they will definitely give me the hire dates and the contracts. And then the person who will have to manually analyze both of these data using some other systems, or maybe a Power BI report, or maybe simply Excel, right? Now, the problem with this is the person who's requesting this information doesn't really know, because it's a big organization. Now he will send out the email. I don't know how many weeks, how many days it will take. Ideally, it's a very simple question. Think about it. It's a very simple question. It should not take more than 10 minutes to get the answer of this, especially when we have such cool systems out there. But that's not the reality. Now, what's the solution? So here's a duct tape phase, as I call it. So when the business person, the analyst or the leader asks this particular question, then this question raises concerns on the leadership side, and they finally approve a change. They finally tell the developers of the ServiceNow team, hey, can you get the hire date from the HR systems? And the developer is like, hey, of course, I can do that. I've done that so many times. If he's experienced enough, it's a very simple, it can be in a schedule import. It can be a real-time API hit. There can be a staging table of HR data. If not, it can be a direct mapping. There can be a transformation phase where you're manipulating the date type and the formatting of it. And finally, the hire data becomes part of the user record, either HR profile or either the user profile data. Now, this works, right? Now, of course, it works. Finally, it happens. The team celebrates it, and the product is, or the feature is shipped finally out there. Now, 3 months later, the HR renames that field somehow for some reason on the HR side, and they simply renames it. And the import that was doing the fetching operation breaks. Nobody notices it, unless of course the developer was smart enough to put some kind of error mechanism. If not, it is a silent break. That means nobody will notice it unless somebody reports an issue. And that is when the people will realize, hey, the cool integration that we built is already behind. Right? So that is one big problem. But that is not the one single problem. It's actually happening everywhere else. Each team, whenever they get a situation like this, they can of course perform integrations, perform a lot more different things, and finally get everything together. In case of finance, it can be a SAP data coming into it. Finance still using the stale data for budget reports. And finally, the finance team is impacted after some time. They realized it. In HR, it can be 5 different people can build 5 different types of integration just to import the same data from 5 different locations and whatnot. When we talk about who owns this data, is it fresh? Is it trusted? Nobody has the answer to this, because nobody has the right ownership on this combined data, or at least it is nowhere defined. Now, this is a repeated pattern. ServiceNow has already solved this pattern, but in case of services. So we all must know about service catalogs, right? ServiceNow has this amazing product, service catalogs. You can define the various services the organization can offer. Those services get discovered through the portals, through HR portal, through employee services portal and whatnot. there is a clear ownership defined, there is a clear process defined behind that service, so users can discover it, request it, and of course if it breaks, the ability to know about the process is already there. And of course, to make sure it is trusted, there's always SLAs and life cycles involved. Now, a data catalog is to data what service catalog is to services. Now, this is one of the best analogies I can find out there. Simply saying, when you want to manage your services, you use service catalogs. When you want to manage your data, you use data catalog. Now I know the confusion would be, hey, why would I want to manage a user data? It's already there on the user table, or it's already there on the HR table, HR profile table. The question is not the data is here or there. The question is to know by certainty where the data is. If the data is on user table, if the data is on HR table, whatever table it is, it should be known, it should be governed, it should be able to discover. So if I'm a new user hopping on from a different organization, I may not know what is the user data, and I'm just starting to get on my analytics team. I want to query a lot of different things. I want to understand a lot of different things happening in the organization. I'll give you another example. If a person asks you, what is a product? I know you are managing it on the product table. And if I'm a ServiceNow person, I'll just hop onto the products table and I'll get a list of all the products that the company is using. I'm using Workday, I'm using, ServiceNow, I'm using, different, Logitech or something companies, something. It's all there. The product list is all there. But what is a product? Can I simply add more products to it and just simply becomes a product? What is the process of getting a new product if it is not there? Who defines this? So that also becomes part of data catalog. So in simple terms, we are solving this big question around managing, governing, discovering your data. Now, the data catalogs gives a lot of features, but here's a quick summary. It helps you to discover the data. Users will be able to search, data from various different places. There will be a business glossary. Now, this is very important. I was asking the question, what is a product? The glossary is able to help these new people who are getting on board on these organizations to understand what is what. It is basically a dictionary table, right? To give you everything. Hey, what is a product? Hey, what is, what is a critical CI for me? I understand when you check mark a box of in CMDB and that becomes a critical CI for the organization. But what are the attributes that make a CI critical, right? So that is where the business glossary helps. It is a dictionary to help the users understand where everything is happening. On the next point, understanding the data. So ownership, stewardship, every data set has a named owner responsible for quality and accuracy. Something similar that we have seen on the CMDB side as well, right? Lineage tracking. Now this one is very critical because when you are trying to create a business level data catalog, that means it is not applicable to a particular platform or a particular software. It is applicable to the whole organization. That means if I'm having a user data, that user catalog will be coming from the user table, will be coming from the HR profile table, will also be coming from the Workday table, might be coming from the Great HR, if there are multiple HR tools involved, it will be coming from there, and it might be coming from some 10 different tools as well. All of these combined becomes this one data set which can say, hey, this is my master data. This is like the ultimate knowledge of this organization. And this should be used whenever you're dealing with user data. And the lineage will help us see, hey, the hire date is coming from Workday. So if something happens here, I need to look at this software further. Hey, the first name, last name is coming from ServiceNow. Hey, the profile records are coming from HR profile. I need to look into that. So the lineage really helps you to understand the data from where it is coming, but also is somewhat able to help you to trust the data. And then we have data certifications for it, of course, because once you define a data catalog, the owner should be able to approve it so that the consumer should be able to trust the data. So this is basically a certification remark. And of course, there can be multiple quality metrics that can be on top of this data catalog. Freshness, completeness, accuracy, and it will be surfaced right on top. So these are some of the features on a very high level what data catalog gives you. Now, I'm going back to the same example again, the same request where the end user or the business analyst is asking, hey, get me all the employee details who have been hired in the last 6 months but are not onboarded. Without the data catalog, first of all, he doesn't understand what is onboarding, what is the status. He doesn't understand if the data is in ServiceNow, if the data is in Workday, if the data can be trusted or not. He can of course get the data individually, but he has to do a lot of work. So a lot of back and forth, ultimately wasting a lot of critical time for a very, very small thing. Because the main impactful thing this person can deliver is going to be the next step. Like analyzing, what are the important things that these people are bringing? What are the different skills? And more important, questions that will come afterwards. But we are stuck at the first step right now. So when we implement this data catalog, analyst opens the data catalog. It simply searches for employee hire date. He finds maybe employee master, something like that. He also knows that HR engineering is the owner of this, and this data gets refreshed every day. He can also check the hire data is coming from the HR profile inside ServiceNow, or maybe, Workday, or it can be anything. And it is certified for HR reporting. So immediately, in just a quick look of this data catalog, in a quick search, the consumer is able to understand that, hey, I can use this data, I can trust this data, and I can now quickly fire my query away and start analyzing what's happening. This is the power that is being delivered using data catalog. Now, I think I've spoken a lot and there will be a lot of questions, I'm sure. So let me end it with saying, why ServiceNow? Why this whole thing of data catalog is perfectly fitting with ServiceNow. Now I have some points on that. First point, ServiceNow is usually considered the single system of record. And more importantly, it is the engagement system. It is the main engagement system. It already has your CMDB data. It already has service catalogs, HR, customer, and whatnot. So adding data assets to that registry is a natural extension of the system. ServiceNow already has existing workflows ready to go. So the access request system, approvals, change management is already part of it. So appending the data governance workflow becomes even more easier. Identity and access is already managed, as you know. Now, one of the best things which I find about ServiceNow is every 3 months we are getting to know about new features and new products. But the environment of ServiceNow is such that it becomes very easy to learn and understand because the environment is similar. The platform is the same and it is still the same. And finally, the integrations via Workflow Data Fabric. Because when we talk about data catalogs, we want to talk about data at an organization level. That means we will be fetching down the data from a lot of different systems that our organization is already using. So this is where the multiple capabilities as part of ServiceNow becomes even more handy. So you get, API integration, UI integration, stream integration, zero copy integration, whatnot, all types of integration. And most importantly, everything is governed, every capability is governed under the ServiceNow platform capabilities and the AI control tower. So it really is giving you everything into one bucket and giving you one holistic place to govern and manage all the connected systems, AI, as well as data. So that is why data catalogs and ultimately the context is a natural fit to the ServiceNow environment. So I'll end it with a quote. Your data estate deserves the same care as you give to your IT estate. A data catalog is to data what the service catalog is to services. All right, with that, I think I've already spoken a lot. Thank you for listening in. I hope you have a nice day. Thank you. Bye-bye.